I'm Matt Bush. I manage the relationships with our agencies at Google. And so, I've seen firsthand some of the things that businesses are doing to take advantage of this massive increase in information that digital marketing has actually given us. So I want to talk a little bit about what that information is and where it's coming from, what Google is doing to harness it, and what leading businesses are doing to actually start to take advantage of it. But before I do that, I want to take a step back. And I know that you know all this already, but just to make sure that we're on the same page, we are living in a mobile world. If you consider the growth of smartphone usage over the last 5 years, in the UK now we're looking at 74% of people in the UK are using smartphones. This has gone up from 50% just 5 years ago. And more people are using their smartphone as their primary device. So now we're seeing 65% of people in the UK are using their smartphone as the primary device to access to the internet. And as a result of this, we've seen a massive explosion in people accessing the web. So globally now, 60% of people access the web every single day. Globally, the entire population of the world, the adult world, is accessing the web every single 60% are accessing it every single day. In the UK, that's 73%. And so obviously what this rise has led to is a very different kind of expectation from from consumers. If you get a bad experience, you just go on to your next option. And when people are faced with this massive increase in information, access to unlimited information, in fact, they need help, they need assistance, as Jason was talking about earlier this morning. And in a recent study we ran, 87% of people are turning to search to actually get that assistance. So that's great, usage is high, but what difference is mobile actually having on the type of things that people are asking? Well, I think what's incredible is that we're seeing like a huge proliferation of the types of things that people are searching for. We ran a study across EMEA recently to try and understand some of the things that people are searching for, and everything from researching a product to researching a place to researching a service. We're seeing this over and over and over again, this different change in usage in search. And I think, the type of searches that we're seeing now are vastly different from the type of searches we were seeing before mobile. And again, as Jason talked about, what people are looking for is they're looking for information that's fast, they're looking for information that's accessible, and they're looking for information that's useful. And this is exactly the same for Google as it is for any other business. So much so that we're constantly looking at the way in which people are accessing information. If you think about the switch to mobile and the switch from short keyword phrases to natural language, we've been constantly innovating in search to make sure that we can get the right query answered with the right source of information. And an example, like if you go right back to 2002, in 2002, we started to think about the different meanings that words have. So for the sake of argument, if you take the word change, and you might want to change a PDF into a Word doc, or you might want to change the memory on a laptop. Now, the word change is the same, but the meaning is totally different. One means to convert, one means to install, and we needed to understand that. We needed to understand that so you didn't, as consumers, you didn't have to think about what that meant. And so over time, we could start to understand people's searches better. And now we're using machine learning to do this at scale on the trillions of searches that we see every year. And we're starting to use this technology not just across all of our products, but we're starting to open it up to businesses too. So in order to take advantage of this, I think there are three main things that you need to be thinking about. You need to be seen, you need to be smart, and as Jason again was talking about earlier this morning, you need to be speedy. So let's start with being seen. Again, a stat that you may well have heard about before, 60% of people who are buying things in-store are researching online beforehand. Now, if we're just thinking about channels, if we think about silos, we'd only be considering the 4% of people that converted online, ignoring the fact that 60% of people are researching online beforehand. And I think Geraldine in the Hilton example was a really good example of that. The very first thing that she mentioned when she was talking about the changes she made was to actually break down those silos so you've got teams working together. One other business that has done some fantastic work in this space is Matalin. They realized that mobile in particular was driving a huge amount of purchasing in store. And they used that insight to change things around at their business. Let's hear a bit from Andy from Matalin about what they did.
Today's customer moves fluidly across what we call channels. They'll research on the website and buy in store, or they'll research in store and buy online. They care about convenience. At Matalin, we sell clothing, homewares, underwear, furniture, shoes, items for your kitchen and items for your bathroom. Our strength has always been the connection with the customer, but we faced a fundamental challenge. Our teams, our data, our goals, but we were marketed. Everything sat in channels. How could we serve this increasingly omnichannel customer and remain relevant as a retailer when our marketing wasn't aligned with how today's customer really behaves? Say you're buying a school uniform for your kids. You do a bit of research online, you check the price, you check the stock, you check the quality. But then you might want to go to the store to buy it, see it for yourself and check the fit. Google's technology allowed us to understand with high confidence the full omnichannel journey for our customers. How many people clicked on an advert, visited our store, and then bought a product. For example, bidding on luggage online wasn't giving us the best e-commerce returns. But when we factored in store sales, it was one of our highest returning lines. With the data that Google provided us with, we saw that mobile was the single biggest driver of footfall and sales in our stores. Reorganising a 30-year-old business for the mobile age was never going to be easy. Our marketing was very traditional, but having powerful data like Google store visits alongside our existing store sales data made the case for building more local tactics into our online strategy. So here in Knaresborough, we trialled bidding more for customers that were in close proximity to the store and found that they were much more likely to visit after clicking on an ad. So you might see an ad here, but you wouldn't see an ad here. Having the right KPIs and metrics in place means we can run these experiments and really understand what difference it makes to our bottom line. I think any organisational change was always going to be a big job. But with these insights and attributing revenue, we'll be able to drive a much better customer experience, and that will be something that really drives the growth for our business.
Okay, so that was Andy. Andy is actually going to join us in about 20 minutes on stage to talk us a bit more about his experience, about how they actually put mobile at the heart of their business, and as a result, they've seen dramatic transformation in their success. Okay, so that was briefly on BC. Now, I now want to talk about being smart, being smarter with data in particular. We think there are three big areas that need to be combined to really kind of make the most sense of data. The first one is intent. This is what people are actually asking Google on a daily basis, and is arguably the most powerful signal we have. I think most of you have kind of grown up in search, and so you know this already. But I think we shouldn't underestimate how important that signal is. The second is obviously revolving around the data, and that's our data, that's your data. It's combining the two to make sure that it's all working incredibly well. And then the third thing is machine learning. So taking all of that, making sure that we can put the right information in front of the right user at the right time. And as I said, the amazing thing that you get from search is that people are actually volunteering what they want. This is without question the most powerful signal we have. If somebody wants car insurance, then they will type in car insurance. But what we can do now with other signals is actually start to understand more about that to make their experience better. So for the sake of argument, are they about to renew their car insurance? Are they at a dealership and maybe looking at a car? And so as a result of these types of things, you can decide whether to put your bid up if you think the person is going to be more valuable to you, or you can put your bid down if you think that person isn't so valuable to you. And using machine learning, we can do this all in real time. Because it is very difficult to predict the type of signals that you're going to get coming in, and so difficult to predict exactly what the right amount to bid is for every single different combination of signals, which is why we launched, last year, a couple of years ago, we launched Smart Bidding. And what this does is take a rich set of signals and try and understand the right context and therefore the very best possibility of getting the right conversion for that particular set of signals. So all you need to do is set targets for your performance, and then the machine learning will actually look to produce the optimum bid for every single query that comes in. And then often the best results we see are when people are combining different smart products together. So Virgin Experience at Days have done just this. They wanted to do quite a few things with their campaign. It was a relatively complex campaign. They wanted to maximise their orders and revenue. I guess that kind of stands to reason. That's what everyone wants to do. But they wanted to target product-specific searches as well as broadening out the rest of their searches. They wanted to cover more search queries and categories than they had done before. And so what they did was they targeted previous visitors, so warm leads, people who've been there before, and using remarketing lists for search ads, which obviously allows you to interact differently with someone who you've seen before. They combine that with dynamic search ads. So dynamic search ads actually looking at your own site, scraping the data, the content that you can see on your site, and creating ads in real time using different keywords and so on. And so, as a result, it can with the type of conversions that the machine learning is seeing, we can continually change and improve on those conversions. And you can see the numbers that Virgin Experience Days got just there. And what this leads us all to is the Google Cloud Platform. And what Google Cloud Platform does is essentially allow you to use the same technologies that we're using to deliver our products to billions of people. And there's a huge number of things that you can do with Google Cloud, but it's actually relatively straightforward. You gather all your data in one place, you gather it in the cloud, you transform it into something that's useful, you analyze it so you can see what's going on with it, you visualize it so it makes more sense to more people in the organization, and then you create a model so you can drive that process at scale. And we've got Chris coming on in a second to talk in more detail about Google Cloud. So I'm going to leave it there. And then also, in about 20 minutes on the sofa with Andy, we've got Scott from Digitas LBI, who spoke recently at a cloud event about some of the ways in which they're using Google Cloud Platform. And basically, they're being able to use cloud to run calculations that previously were either not possible, they couldn't do them at all, or they would have taken days of processing. So that was being smart, and I want to touch very, very briefly on being speedy, because Jason talked about this at length this morning, and I think we're increasingly seeing that the speed of a mobile experience is the #1 priority. But there was some research that we recently did in EMEA, and it kind of touches on what Jason was talking about before, whereby we asked people how quickly they expected a mobile page to load, and 18% of people said that they expected a mobile page to load instantly. So not 1 second, not 2 seconds, and certainly not the 22 seconds that Jason experienced across the 900 brands that he talked about this morning. And so these are the customer expectations that we're now faced with. And so it's really, really important that we continue to think about how we can improve those experiences. And one brand that did was money.co.uk. So they actually used the Test My Site tool, again, that Jason talked about, saw that there were a whole list of things that needed to be done, and then got in touch with us and said, look, can we do a more full audit so we can actually understand some of the things that we can do to improve the site speed and the usability. And as a result, sort of the headline figure they've initially done, they've got page load time down from 12 seconds to 3 seconds, just by implementing some of the things that we suggested. Their site speed, as click-through on site, has gone from 12% to 32% as a result of that. And so, really kind of clear ways in which we can actually use things like Test My Site to take the ideas from that and actually start to transform that into something that works for your site and therefore for your customers. Now, I said there were 3 things that I wanted to talk about, and there is a fourth, because the fourth is measurement. And measurement kind of brings all this together. Without effective measurement, then it's difficult to actually deliver all of the things that we've discussed so far. And for a consumer-centric strategy to be successful, there's a bunch of things that we really need to be thinking about. And this goes back to the channels and data silos and media metrics. At the moment, too many businesses are thinking channels and thinking data silos. But we need to break those down, and we need to think about the customer, and we need to think about the value that customer brings to our business over a long period of time. And I think Andy touched on some of those things in the video earlier too. And so we did some research on what marketers of successful businesses are actually experiencing. What are they doing? What are the kind of practices they're putting into place? And how are they actually being successful? And I think, you know, the number one thing that came out was they focus on maximising this customer value. So they're evolving to a metric of success away from just the value of that customer today to a future value of that customer. So combining those two things to make sure that the customer wants to stay with you for a significant period of time. They're also building out an expertise of proxies. And you know, essentially what these are doing is they're connecting real-time business outcomes with the business metrics so they can make decisions smarter and faster. And then finally, they're committing resource to experiments. And I think, you know, we all talk about experiments. I think, you know, we'd all probably like to be doing more experiments, but we're definitely seeing the most successful marketers at the moment are actually committing to doing these experiments to try and understand where the value is going to be in the future for their business across some of the key segments that they've got. And there's a couple of tools that we've launched in Google Attribution. There's some features in Attribution 360, which you should definitely, if you're interested, you should definitely follow up with us in the future. Thinking about this move to a data-driven attribution world away from the silos that perhaps we've seen in the past. And a company that's growing super fast through using this is HelloFresh. So they wanted to understand every media touch point across the customer journey. And to do this, they used data-driven attribution in AdWords. And what this enabled them to do was to understand how to bid in real time on different customers. And as you can see, massive increase in their return on AdWords spend of 145%. So again, you know, we're starting to see a huge amount of real-world examples who are actually taking advantage of the tools that we're putting in place to deliver a significantly better customer experience, which is leading to much bigger returns for those customers. So that's it from me. Four key areas to think about as we go through the afternoon. Be seen, be smart, be speedy, and make sure you continue to measure for growth. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Matt. Fascinating insights again there. I think there have been a couple of questions, so hopefully you can see them on the screen. How can Google help me measure customer lifetime value?
Yeah, so I think, you know, it's using tools that we've currently got within AdWords, data-driven attribution, within the Google Cloud Platform, and you're going to hear some more about that in a second. And so, like, you know, I think that the tools are available in order for us to kind of predict what those customer lifetime values are. I think, you know, increasingly what we're asking is for proxies to be used, as I talked about previously. Because, you know, it's difficult to do, but with machine learning and with the proxies we've got in place and with the examples we've now got of how a single customer has turned into customer lifetime value, then, you know, the tools are without question there. So just talk to us about how you take advantage of cloud and AdWords.
Great stuff. Thank you. Harry has asked the question, connecting to the last session before lunch, do you think it's important to have emotional intelligence to help understand customers better because they are people after all?
Yes, of course. I think is the obvious answer to that. It's always better to have emotional intelligence to understand customers better. I mean, again, look, you know, how that works in a digital world, I think is about harnessing the data that you can that you get on you know, the huge amount of data that we can now see from the way in which our customers interact across the different properties that we've got. So not just within search, but, you know, if you're using some of our GA360 products, then you can see those different touch points across the way. Now, you know, depending on how they're reacting and how they're moving around across those products, you could probably start to understand where their emotional state was. The one thing that I always go back to is that, you know, search is, without question, the truest form of honesty. So, you know, people ask Google questions that they don't even ask their partner. I'm sure you've done it.
Anyone guilty of that in this room?
I think we've all done it in the past. So, like, you know, trying to understand the type of things that people are asking of Google does open up to understanding their emotional intelligence in a way that perhaps you can't do through other media, where maybe people are putting on some kind of persona, they want to be seen in a certain way. So I do think that, understanding the kind of the inputs that customers are giving or users are giving onto search can start to unpick what emotional intelligence is going on.
Fabulous. Well, thank you very much indeed, Matt.